Yo, can you hear me? Good evening, everybody. Stream keeps dropping. Could be you. Hello. Can everyone confirm that things are running smoothly and that my voice, apparently that sounds silky according to Rasta, is coming through clearly? Loud and clear. Good evening all. Hope you've brought your tea, because hacking without tea is very uncivilized. Tonight's brew is Dong Ding Oolong again, T2, good stuff. Ah, so good after a long day of dev, as we're about to kick off some more dev. Ooh, got the dark, yeah. See, I was just chatting to Rasta about the dark chocolate thing. I had some earlier on, and so I'm trying to be a good boy, and I'm not going to have any more. Otherwise, I'll end up eating an entire bar again, and that's really not a good thing. So, anyway, how are you guys doing? Is everyone still suffering in their respective parts of the world thanks to coronavirus lockdown, or are we starting to see restrictions lighten? Rasta's just subbed again. He's a good bloke, that Rasta Mouse. Thank you very much, Rasta. Very much appreciated. Your support, as always, is appreciated. Thank you very much. Did I cut my hair? Yes, actually I did. Although today I haven't exactly done anything with it other than shower and dry it. But yeah, it's a bit shorter than the last one. That's right, we talked about that on stream last time, didn't we? Sis up, yeah, I would agree. Depending, actually in some states in the US, technically it is a vegetable. Did I let my wife do it? No, absolutely not. Thankfully, I am not that stupid. I am stupid. There is no doubt about that, but I'm not that stupid. But then, I mean, what's the difference between a good and bad haircut? Just a few days? Meh. Week? Who knows? But yeah, all good. Anyway, so tonight, first stream in a while that we're going to be talking about this. Which is kind of exciting. Oh yeah, Lint 85, good stuff. Very good choice, very good choice. Yeah, we haven't done CLR Meterpreter development since December. So very close to the 6-month mark since we did something with this. And before kicking off the stream this evening, I was just making sure that all the machines and the source and all that sort of stuff was still sitting here and working, and quickly adjusted IP addresses for changes in the VMs so that things would continue to function. And I couldn't actually remember what we did last, so I even have to open up a web browser and go to my own GitHub repo and have a look at what we wrote for the last stream. So there we go, restrictions are getting easier. Well, in Queensland, which is where I live, apparently in 2 days' time they're going to be lifting restrictions a bit and allowing people to move around a little bit more, etc. So yeah, it's good. It's good. Be interesting to see whether we get a spike in cases, whether the community transmissions kick in and bad things happen. But hey, you know, we will see. But good evening to everyone who is on stream. Thank you very much for joining in. There are some regular faces, then some not so regular faces. But as always, it is lovely having you all on board. So, quick show of hands in a virtual sense. Who was here for the last Meterp session? And who here hasn't seen a single one? That is not a judgment thing. I'm just genuinely interested to know. More so for a background knowledge kind of thing. Have not seen anything. Yeah, it has been a while. Nearly 6 months. This is not OJ. Cool. You know nothing? Excellent. 50-50. Yeah. The thing is, like, I've been here for every single one of them, so, you know, I'm probably the only person on stream who has been to all of my streams. That's to be expected. But even I'm struggling to remember what we did last time. So that's why I'm just going to hop over there. And the first thing we're going to do is have a quick squeeze at what we did last time. So, according to my notes, which I'm actually glad that I've been keeping. Oh, it has been 6 months. Look at that. It was November. Oh. Wolf, yes, I think you have been on all. So the last one I did was on the 7th of November. Wow. Yeah. That's a long time ago. And it was in a morning stream too. Interesting, hey? Oh, dude. Yeah, I totally hear you. See, when I was writing these, I was thinking, was that really useful? And it turns out it absolutely is. So the last thing that we did, we implemented a bind TCP transport and made sure it worked as a resilient transport, which is interesting because bind TCP rarely gets used, let alone in a resilient fashion. From there, we added support add transports on the fly of all types and also validated they get invoked correctly when transports fail. So they roll over as you would expect. Excellent. We may have to quickly address the listing functionality to make sure that what's shown is indicative of what's going on behind the scenes. We'll cover that in the next stream when we add support for removing transports. Wow, there you go. Yeah, nice work, Bitwise. You're a machine. Absolute machine, bro. Yeah, so I guess we should probably follow through on this, and we'll go and revisit what we were doing with the transport related stuff, and we will cover in this stream what we said we were going to, and that is address the listing functionality and removing of transports. So let's start by making sure everything still works. Now, some people probably won't know this, but back in the day, we chose to use Visual Studio 2017 for various reasons. Recently, some work that I've done that's been pushed to the Meterpreter repository and is now in master means that you can build this with Visual Studio 20. You can build the native Meterpreter with 2019, 2017, and 2013, all from the command line. And we can even use CMake to do this stuff magically for us now. So that's pretty cool. So as a result of that, I may at some point move this code base over to 2019 so that it matters. Yeah, Rastamouse. So 2013 is still an interesting one because that is the toolset. Sorry, that's the version of Visual Studio that works with or comes with toolset version 121 XP, or is it 120 XP? No, it's either way, 120 something XP. And then the new version that we built from 2019 uses 140 XP. So the platform toolset version is quite different. The interesting thing about the platform toolset difference is that when you compile against the later one, the size of the binaries is significantly bigger. Yeah, you can. There are build instructions, sysop. There are build instructions where you can literally just use Choco to install whichever version of Visual Studio you want, and off you go. But yeah, the size of the binaries was just insanely big. Hey Ricky, Killix, etc. Thanks for jumping on, folks. Yeah, so that was an interesting little find. I spent a lot of time bashing my head against that. So I personally think that right now the best option is to compile using Visual Studio 2019 against the platform toolset from back in the day because the binaries are significantly smaller. But there are instructions on how to do that in the repository. If you'd like to see, I can show you. github.com rapid7 metasploit payloads. So if we go to metasploit payloads, you can see there's CMeterpreter, and here are the instructions. So as you can see, you can use Visual Studio 2019 and install Chocolatey and run this magical command, and it will do all the things to configure 2019 for you, the free edition. Here's the same for 2017, and here it is for 2013. Thank you for the follow. Who was that? Who has followed? Mathlete? Is that how I say that? Mathlete? I hope so. Ooh, I just grabbed the wrong thing on my screen. Okay. Mathlete. Thank you. That's awesome. Righto. So, I know I'm digressing slightly, but this is at least slightly interesting. But it does have all of the stuff in here. So if you open up a developer command prompt for whatever, you can just type make. You can type make with the architecture, or you can type make with which version of the platform toolset that you want to use. The thing is that if you're using Visual Studio 2013, you can only use this toolset. But so there you go. That's all fairly new work. And now that 2019 is supported, we may move our CLR Meterpreter over as well. So yeah, there you go. Interesting, hey? Righto, so let's go back into our source code while that's spinning up. Here's another thing that I made sure was still working, so we can go MSF console and spin up our resource file, which I've doctored to include a reference to our new IP address on this virtual machine. Don't worry about this database support, I haven't got Postgres running. But this spins up all the handlers and whatnot on the different transports and stuff, which is cool. These are a little bit overkill because we don't actually need them. We can have one listener and everything should be fine. But anyway, right, let's open up. Let's have a squiz here, and to start with, we're just going to use reverse TCP. So here you can see I adjusted this IP address. So if I hit F5, we should be able to spin up, and when it kicks off, we should end up with a session. Okay, so there you go. We are back to where we were back in the day. So if we look at the transports, like we say, Alasawe, greetings to you. Oh, and by the way, particularly for those people who haven't played along until now, super important to ask questions, because I guarantee that a lot of people who have seen this stuff in the past will want those questions asked as well. So ask the questions. I'm more than happy to digress. This stream is as much about getting us all back up to speed again as it is implementing new features. So make the most of it. Rasta, I will get you to ban yourself if you keep that up. All right, pack that shit in, bro. .NET is the future. I actually genuinely think that .NET related stuff is going to be the future, at least for Meterpreter, for the next few years. And I don't know if you guys are aware of this yet or not, but Spencer McIntyre, or Zero Steiner, who recently joined Rapid7 as a security researcher / developer on the Metasploit team, who is a legend of a bloke, is currently working on all kinds of cool built-in native Ruby implementations of .NET serialization shenanigans, which basically put Metasploit in the same bucket as YSOSerial.net, so it can generate deserialization payloads and everything for you, which is fantastic for us, because when it comes time to actually generate stages for this, we can start tapping into the stuff that Spencer's done and hopefully legitimately generate like deserialization payloads that wire a Metasploit object in, our Meterpreter object in, rather than having to take the source and compile it. So that's awesome and pretty exciting. Is the AMSI in .NET 4.8 likely to mess with it? It probably is. Yes, it probably is. But this whole thing is a cat and mouse game, so chances are that we'll bash our heads against it a little bit, and we'll work to see if we can find ways that that bypass it. So, you know, that's all part of the fun. Righto, so as we should know by now, Meterpreter has the ability to add lots of different transports. So we should be able to go transport add, and it'll say that we haven't given it the parameters. So let's ask for some help. Now we've got our list of transports up here. So we can probably just add a CLR2 reverse HTTP, for example, which is on port 448. Okay, so let's do that. Let's add transport add. Okay, what we're going to do then is we're going to say, we're going to leave most of the defaults. We just want the defaults except for things like, you know, lhost. So we've got 192.168.1, where is it? 46.140. I'm going to specify a port number of 4448. We need to give it a type, so that's going to be reverse HTTP. And I'm pretty sure that it will generate all the other shenanigans for us. Whoops. What did I miss? List change, add, next, previous options. So I'm missing something. Oh, I need to put T there. There we go. All right, so if we list transports now, here we go. This might be why it's interesting, right? Alasawe, dumb question. It is not a dumb question, mate. I'm a C++ developer. Is it easy to learn .NET? So it depends on the language that you choose to write your .NET applications in. So what I always say when I get this question specifically around .NET is if you choose C#, It is a fairly easy language to learn, particularly if you have the history with C++ from a syntax and semantics perspective. .NET isn't so much about learning the language as it is about learning the framework and supporting libraries. That's really the biggie. The tool sets that go with it, and then, if you're actually looking to support an application in production, what does that mean? So I think you would pick up the language very quickly, and I don't think that you'd have a problem building the logic around what it is that you're looking to do. But say if you're looking to do a web application versus a rich client app versus WPF versus a service versus a com or decom kind of service, there's all these different nuances, and the platform supports all of those nuances in obscure ways. And it's just a matter of becoming more and more familiar with those libraries and supporting tool sets. That is not so much a difficult thing to do, but takes quite a long time, depending on what you're doing. Hopefully that answers your question. Do I think you should go learn it? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a fantastic tool set, and it really has come a very long way and will continue to go a long way. I have a bit of a soft spot for F#, given my functional programming history, but can't really use it in this context. Anyway, back to where we were. So here we can see we added our transport successfully here, and then listing the transports shows the following. Now, straight away, I can see one thing that's a little bit interesting, and that is identifier number 1 really should refer to our transport, right? Ooh, Erlang Meterp. Wish I should do that for shizzles one day, just to see how easy it would be. So anyway, so we should be able to go like transport next, and there we are. We're back to where we were. So that's kind of cool. And if we do that again, transport next. I'm going to show you a little trick with this in a minute. Oops. Transport list. Okay, so we can see that is actually working as we would expect, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another transport. This time we're going to have HTTPS. We need to go and figure out what port that's on first. So CLR2 HTTPS is 49. Whoops. So let's add that, and let's see what it looks like when we list again. So look at that. That's interesting, isn't it? We end up kind of, our current transport remains at the bottom, and then from the top down it shows the order in which they were added. Interesting, huh? I'd love to see that done just for shits and giggles. Yeah, well, Erlang is fantastic. I love Erlang, and I would happily play in that when we've got this done. That's really important. Okay, so let's, if we go transport next, we should go from 3 to 1, which means we should come in on the HTTP pipeline, right? So let's see what happens. I think that worked as expected. Yep. And then transport next should take us to the HTTPS one. Ooh. What happened there? That failed, didn't it? Did you see that? So it failed, and what's beautiful about this is as soon as it failed, so we had this failure here, this transport failed. As soon as it failed, it rolled over to the next transport, and we came back on TCP. There you go, we're back on TCP. So if we list transports again, interesting. Hey Benzies, hello, how you going, mate? Yeah, so that's interesting, right? So clearly we've got an issue here. 4449 was definitely that transport, wasn't it? CLR2 reverse HTTPS 4449. Transport prev. See, now it's working. Go figure. Transport list. Clearly some quirk caused it to buff. I wonder why that's the case. Anyway, so what we can see clearly here is that we are definitely passing along the we're rolling over our transports, and that's fine. But the order in which we're listing them doesn't really make a heck of a lot of sense. So let's go and have a look at what the code's doing when we list transports. I'm just going to hit stop. And while we're doing that, actually, that's not going to session, or just go sessions-k. Righto, so let's have a squiz. In metserv, we're probably going to have transport functionality. We've got HTTP, TCP, and transport config. The question is, whereabouts is the implementation of transport next? Here it is. See, I can't even remember where the code is. Okay, so transport next goes to this function. Now, what we're doing here is we are... Actually, no, let's go transport list. That's what we want. Okay, so we're going transport index. We're always starting at 0. And let's have a look. Transport index. Man, this looks a bit confusing, doesn't it? Let's rename this to start with. So we've got too many. Just call that index for now. Makes that obvious. So we start at 0. Oh, I see. Right. Okay, I think I see what's going on here. So when we add a new transport, right, what do we do here? We've got a list of transports, which acts like a vector. So when we add to the list of transports, what do? We just append to the end of the list, right? Yes, Alasawa, all of the code is and will remain available here. I even keep track of the Metasploit commits that are associated with these, but each one of these, you can see the source is all here. All of the sources here. And descriptions of all of the things that we do, things that we've done in the past, the order in which we've done them, etc. is all on this. So I will share that link for you there. That's where you will end up looking at the stuff later on. So when I've uploaded the videos and everything, all of the code will be sitting here so you can have a look through. Yes, that's a very good idea. Bitwise, I will do that. Thank you for that suggestion. Okay, so when we're listing transports, one would assume the reason why we're doing what we're doing here is because I think Metasploit assumes that the first transport that we pass in is the current one. So what I would expect to see when I list transports is the identifier of number 1 is the current one, right? So when we're looking at this here, this little star indicates which one is current. So we need a way of saying which one is current. Now, based on what I'm seeing in the code here, index plus whatever the current transport index is the first one. Now, clearly what I'm doing wrong here is instead of doing this, we should start with, let's have a think. We go from 0 to however many there are. Transport index is the current one, right? So let's just check. So when we jump around, we start with an index of 0, and when we change transports, so we've got these previous transport notifications and next transport notifications. So here we say, right, we're going to disconnect from our current one, and our new transport index will be whatever it is in the backwards direction. Whereas we do the same here in the forwards direction. So we are kind of using our list correctly. So when we are listing our transports, we're starting at whatever the current index is and looping around. Okay? So let's validate that this is doing what we think it's doing. I'm going to hit F9, stick a break. Oh, hang on. Got to go back to the rinse repeat cycle because need to make sure that we get everything that we're expecting to get. There we go. So what I've got is when I build, there's a post-build step that copies the binaries to a certain location. That certain location is mapped across my virtual machines to the appropriate location in my Metasploit repository, so that when I stage stuff, it pushes it back through to this program and our debug symbols resolve and off we go. Does that make sense? So we should have a session now. Okay. Sessions -1. Now what I'm going to do is go back to these transport add commands because, you know, I don't want to type them all again. Oh yeah. Have I got a breakpoint here? Yeah, I do. Ooh, what's going on here? Why is that doing a transport list? Why did it do that? That's interesting, huh? There's got to be a few references to it. Transport list. No? Maybe that was called behind the scenes for some reason. That's interesting. Let's do reverse HTTP as well. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and stick this breakpoint on here. And let's have a squiz when we transport list. Okay. Righto, so index is 0 and we're iterating through however many transports. There's 3 in total. Now current transport index is 0 and we're starting at 0, so that should pull out transport 0, which is the TCP connection we initially called in on. Okay, so that's accurate. And then we add, what are we adding here? Transport get config. So transport get config from memory. Basically, it takes the configuration of the current transport and kind of serializes it into a TLV. Here we go. So for a TCP connection, there's not a great deal to it. You've just got the timeouts and the URL. Okay, so that's fine. And then the next transport, we might even stick that in a watch window. Locals. It's kind of hard to see. This watch window is great, nice and fat and big. But for some reason, the locals window is not. But as you can see here, this has user agent strings and is HTTP transport and has an HTTPS prefix. So that is giving us the HTTPS, which is the first one that we added afterwards. So that makes sense as well. And therefore, this last one should be the HTTP. That is, hang on a sec. That has the HTTP config. Okay, so that's what we would expect, right? That makes me happy, Archbishop. I do love doing the dev streams. You know, it's a blast from the past for me, and you know, I love writing code. I've always loved writing code. So does that all make sense? So here's the thing. With that in mind, we need to have a look at what's going on the Metasploit side, because, like, clearly, we run that again. Come on. Have I still got the break? Yeah, I do. It's because I'm an idiot. So we can see, look, the right one is being highlighted. And then we kind of go 1, 2, 3 afterwards. So we need to have a squiz at what's going on. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go background and exit. We're just going to let that run. I haven't installed my Control P plugin on here, which is super handy. I'm kind of tempted to do that just quickly. Hang on a second. Let me just, this is actually valuable for the Vim lovers out there. Just 1 sec, I'm getting the URL. Okay, so we need this URL. So let's go git submodule add bin enable clipboard. Welcome to Linux VMs. Okay, sorry about the slight digression, but this is important. ctrlp.vim So that shouldn't take too long. And then vim.vim rc. So where we've got the control, hang on, no, I want leader T. There you go. So it's not command T. Pretty sure I want control P. All right. So code, Metasploit framework. Let's open this up, and hopefully this will work exactly. Hey, Binchuk. Vim after dark. Okay, so what I would like to see here is in the, it's not in the packet dispatcher. This will be in, where would it be? Core transport list in lib. So we want, this is the bit that I love if it works. You ready? Meterpreter client core. Boom. That's what I love about this plugin. So you can start typing. It does a fuzzy search for the letters that you've matched. So if I wanted to, for example, look at the lib rex, see how it's not perfect? I can just go rex meterp packet dispatcher. You can see how I've only typed lib remet packet disp, and it's picked up on the path that I'm interested in looking at. And there we go. That is wicked in it. Vidvar 13, any XL hacker. I don't even know what that means. Okay. Okay, so transport list. Okay, let's have a squiz here. What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? Okay, so what we're doing, session expire, response get TLV value. That's obviously at the root level, and then we iterate through each of the groups and we add a result. So what would be interesting here would be to actually have a look at what those results look like. So what I might do is the best tried and true standard error.puts, and we'll go results.inspect because that's the cheeky way of dumping stuff to the console in Ruby. And let's fire this up, and hopefully we'll just see that one of the transports kick back in. Come on. There it is. All right, let's open that up. Interesting, huh? Okay, so the first thing that we see here, here, this is interesting. So transports, the first entry in this transport is the HTTPS one, which is definitely not what we were expecting to see. After that we see, hang on a second. I've got two. Oh yeah, okay. So ignore this for a sec. URL is HTTPS, URL is HTTP, URL is TCP. Okay, so that's really quite strange. Let's go back to here for a minute, because I would like to see what order these are being added in. It might have something to do with the way that the things are iterated. But yeah, I'd also like to know as well how it knows. Oh, I know how. Yeah, okay, we're going to have a look at this as well in just a second. So we're currently looking at client core. We need to grep-r for transport list in lib, because what we want to do, you see how we've got this, see how there's a couple of calls here to transport lists in the command dispatcher core? So that's what we want to have a quick squiz at. There's even another one here. No wonder there are so many calls that we're seeing behind the scenes. I wonder why this is the case. All right, so let's go command dispatcher core. We might open this up a little bit and go transport list. Remember, ask questions. Transport. Why is the transport not in here? Oh, I got the wrong one. Did I get the wrong one? UI console. librex post meterpreter UI. Oh, that's the wrong one. Librex post meterpreter UI command dispatcher core. There it is. Okay, so transport list. Righto, so what do we got here? Transport tab. Okay, so isn't that funny? When you hit tab completion, it actually does a call to pull the transports out. That's very interesting. Update transport map. What does that do? That makes another call. Result equals transport map.clear. Go and actually pull the transports back in. Sort by URL. Aha, isn't this interesting? This looks fishy to me. Benzie, yeah, mate, I'm a huge fan of Vim. We talk about this almost every stream. I did a live stream on Vim and how you can abuse some of the wonderful things that it does if you're interested. Yeah, it turned out to be 3 hours and it was one of the most popular videos I've published. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Okay, so what do we got here? We are in transport. Okay, so we're in command transport. So this is whenever command transport is done. It actually calls, go and get the transports. And then here it says, go and get it again. What on earth is it doing? So this is interesting here, right? Saying current transport URL is whatever the first URL is that comes out of our transports. Is that what it's doing? Let's run that again. Vim is king. Benzie, yes, Archbishop is a bit of a legend. Okay, so here we go. That did come back on HTTPS. Okay, so that is what we would expect to see. Sessions -1, transport list. So, well, it currently thinks that the one that we're talking on is HTTP. Is that what we're currently on? Oh yeah, it is. There you go. HTTP. Yeah, okay. All right, so it's got that right. Let's just do this. Transport next. Exit-y, and let's just see what this calls back in on. It should kick straight back in for HTTPS as far as I'm aware. Yep, they're the handlers. And what do we got here? We are attaching to HTTPS. Sessions -1 transport list. Right, so here we go. This is interesting, right? We know that the current one is the one that comes back first. But by the looks of it, when we actually spit the results out in, sorry, I flipped to the wrong screen. When we're listing, it's sorting by URL. Why? I have no idea why. Print timeouts. So sorted by URL. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't know why that's the case. See, the way I think originally planned for this to happen is this. Result. Because this would make a lot more sense. Right? I don't like the whole... The thing is, the order of the transports then doesn't make sense, because when I look at a list, if I hit next, I would expect things to move in the order that they're listed, but that is not going to be the case here, is it? All right, let's bg exit -y. This is the easy way to get Meterpreter Ruby code to, sorry, Metasploit Meterpreter wiring to come back in. Gomboss is back and he has subbed again for another month. Thank you, sir. You are a prince among men. Thank you for your ongoing support, as always. Ooh. Implicit conversion of symbol and trigger. Oh, okay, so I must have done something wrong there. Hang on. Results.transport sort by KO. No, that's what I wanted. And then result. Ah. Whoever let me do that. We want the result transports, not the result itself. BG exit -y. Go again. Because the result itself has two elements. It has a list of transports and it has the session timeout stuff in it as well. So we'll just prepare for a session to come in. And there it is. We are back on TCP. Isn't that interesting? Right, so this is what I expected to see. Current transport is at the top of the list. That's kind of what you want to know, right? Then if I hit transport next, it will go to number 2. Hey, Barney. And if I hit next, we go to number 3. That's exactly what I would expect to see, right? That's more like it. This is exactly what I would expect to see. So the current transport is the one at the top. And the next transport is the one that is next in the list. That's exactly how it was intended to be used. I have no idea why. I am in some ways tempted to go and look at git blame because I'm pretty sure I didn't do that. I don't like it. Why would you want to sort by URL? Now, I'm not going to go through the pain of explaining why I think this is a bad idea, and for usability, it doesn't make any sense to me at all. Because you're going to get all... If I add... Let's say I'm on a TCP transport, right? If I go add another TCP transport, add HTTPS, add HTTP, okay? And then I list, what I'm going to see is HTTP, HTTPS, and then the 2 TCPs, right? And the one of the TCPs is going to have a star in front of it. And immediately after that, there's going to be a TCP. Immediately after that, there's going to be HTTP, right? But I've added a TCP and then an HTTPS before I add the HTTP. So if I type prev, transport prev, you would expect it to go to the HTTP, but it'll go to HTTPS. Sorry, other way around. So yeah, it's not intuitive. The interface does not match with the functionality. And behind the scenes in the other Meterpreters, the feature to loop through the transports is exactly the same, and the reason why I know is because I wrote it for all of them. So, yeah. Yeah, that's right. I'll usually look at my own things and go, why did I do that? I don't remember doing that. Anyway, that to me answers the question. And what I'm going to do as part of our changes to Metasploit is exactly that. I'm going to leave the transport listing as I would like it to be. Meterpreter engineering architecture instead of building. Thank you, Bitwise. I appreciate that. It is kind of all focused around the development of the .NET version of Meterp. So I'm going to stick at it, but there was kind of always going to be this implicit pulling of bits and pieces from all the other Meterpreters along the way. But thank you. I do appreciate that. Let's BG that for now. No, let's kill it off. Let's kill it off. And we're going to need to add the ability to delete stuff now. So let's just exit out of this. Git status. So I'm pretty sure I changed one of these. That's what I wanted. It's the standard error, right? So it's client core. Git checkout. Okay. All right, cool. So we'll leave that be. Oh, you did. Sorry, Bitwise. Scrolling back. Concerning the HTTPS, I haven't encountered it yet. Does it require a kind of cert? Okay, that's a really good question. It depends on your configuration. So, Meterpreter, as it currently stands, does not rely on having a valid HTTPS certificate in order to talk HTTPS, which is an indicator, of course, to things like antivirus or EDR, that there are a bunch of requests going out to an invalid certificate. But what you should do in this scenario is not use any Metasploit generated HTTPS certificates. You should go and create one with Let's Encrypt, stick Nginx in front of it, and then just have Nginx proxy the traffic between the internet and Metasploit. That's exactly what I do every time I use Metasploit with HTTPS transports. I get a valid cert, stick it in front of the domain, and Nginx proxy it to the back end. Comes with a few issues, but it's really not that big a deal when you get your configuration right. The other option is to tell Metasploit that you want to use that cert, but I would recommend not doing that. Just Nginx it, you'll have no regrets. The other thing that we will talk about down the track when it comes to implementing this, I'm not going to quite do this just yet, is you can force your payloads to make sure that the certificate that it's talking to is a known certificate. So you can generate a SHA-1 fingerprint of the certificate. You can wire that into your payloads. And when the payloads connect, you can say, hey, if the certificate doesn't match what we were expecting, don't continue to talk, because that kind of implies that you're being man-in-the-middled, right? So that's what that feature was built for. And you should go and look up Paranoid Mode, because Paranoid Mode is all about supporting this kind of functionality, generating known payloads and having those payloads know certificate hashes and only talking Meterpreter language and TLV packets when that certificate is valid against that particular hash. And that's what the cert hash functionality is all about. So we currently have support in our configuration for certificate hashes. You'll see it just... Where is it? HTTP. See this cert hash? So we have support for this certificate hash, but we haven't actually done anything with it just yet. So we have the ability to pass it around, but we're not currently using it for validation yet. The validation is customized. Yeah, exactly. It's literally just going, is the fingerprint of the certificate what I expect to see? That's basically what it's doing. So it's not too different, but it does its job. Does that answer your question? I hope so. You're welcome. Okay, so we now need to add delete functionality, don't we? So we want to go, is it core transport delete or core transport remove? Well, let's go and have a look. It is, see, there's the ability to set cert hashes and get cert hashes. So what this is saying, are we currently validating the cert hash? If a cert hash is set, then we're actually validating it. We'll come back to that when we've actually implemented cert hash validation. Transport sleep. I haven't implemented that either. Remove. There's our answer. Okay. Remove. Righto. So this is obviously going to come with one little caveat in that we're not going to provide the ability to remove the transport that we're currently on. That's really important. So we will need to see what we're going to be given behind the scenes. When they say, hey, remove this transport, what are we getting? It would be interesting to see what that looks like. So all I'm going to do for now that it was, by the way, this plugin manager has a register function which says, I want this message to invoke this function here. Pretty much as simple as that. Now, transport. I think the transports, so this false and true basically says, are you blocking or are you not blocking? The transport commands appear to all be blocking because you are currently mucking with the transport, so it actually makes a little bit of sense. I think transport add and transport list transport remove doesn't need to be blocking, whereas when we're moving transports, like we're skipping from one to the other, then it's good. My get through isn't great, but I think this might be the source of the sorting. Oh, are you trying to do the blame thing? Please tell me it's not me. Yep, that's definitely it. That was a while ago. Holy moly. I was curious if it was you. Yeah, no, when I saw that, I was like, nah, there is no way that's me. Yeah. Yeah, not a fan. So let's see. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open this URL up on stream, because this actually shows where the remove functionality has been mucked with as well. So URL to remove. So when we remove a transport, it pulls it out of the transport map. See, that doesn't make any sense to me. Because as far as I'm concerned, when I remove a transport, all I want to do is give it the index of the transport that I want to remove. And that's what it used to be, from what I can tell. Ops transport, ops transport, end with TCD else. I don't even know why that's there. Oh yeah, so that's going to go and figure out. See, now, the way I see this, when it comes to removing a transport, I see it as... should MSF console that for stuff first, shouldn't I? I don't think we should be passing in a URL. I think we should be passing in an index. And that index is based from the current transport. Please. Oh, that's right. It's going to buff because I don't have resiliency in the stager, but that's okay. So when we look at this, transport-h, see how we've got this option here, specify the transport index currently supported remove. So if I want to transport remove, I can specify an index of 1, for example. Index makes way more sense. Who wants to type out a giant URL? I absolutely agree. Now have a look at that. According to this, that succeeded. It didn't. It didn't. This got called and just pretends that it has succeeded. But anyway, what I wanted to do was that again and hit the breakpoint. So in our packet, let's have a look. Is there a media window? I wish everything was bigger. Response. No, not response. Request. So, transport remove. And what is it giving us? It's got 4 TLVs in it. So, request.tlvs. We have a method, a request ID, type, and a URL. So it is giving us the URL now. Okay, so that's fine. I have no problem with passing a URL so long as the URLs actually match, and that on the target side, the listing of the transports is what we would expect to see. So this transport map thing is screwing with my head a little bit. Let's just BG that again. Exit-y. I might tmux this actually so that we can keep things a little better, and we'll just use Vim. And what am I going to need here? I'm going to need lib rex post meterpreter UI command dispatcher core. Okay, so this is where we were with transports. And we can get rid of MSF console that as well. So now this should be a little bit easier for you guys to see. Now update transport map. So this transport map has got to be used somewhere. Here we go, look at this. So I think the idea of this is to support caching. So the update transport map seems to get called all over the place. I kind of get the notion that, you know, you want to pass in a URL. But as far as having an interface is concerned, I just don't see its use. Anyway, I'm going to leave it as is for now. But that, see, that actually means that I'm going to have to do the transport map.clear. I'm going to cheat. Are you ready? I'm just going to do this. Transport map equals result transports. So, hang on. I'm just going to do that. So update transport map literally ignores all of the other sorting shenanigans, and instead, all it's going to do is map directly to what comes in and out. And then when we specify an index in the UI, we know it's going to match with an index behind the scenes. And when we use the transport map for removal, it will map directly to what we would expect. Yeah. But again, so we're going to leave all this stuff in here because it's kind of out of scope of what it is that we're trying to do. And I'll just write that for now. Let's spin that up. Move that over a bit. Indexes make way more sense. Yeah, I've already read that, haven't I? Okay. I'm going to leave a breakpoint there for now. And now, this time we're going to re-add those transports. Transport add localhost 192.168.146, is it? Where is it? The 6.14140. Local port is 4448 and the type is reverse HTTP. And we'll add reverse HTTPS as well. Now with this, you know, you can actually, I think you can add the same thing twice. Which is why I think, you know, specifying a transport by index is way more helpful. Because behind the scenes, like I could add another TCP transport. In fact, let's do that. Transport add reverse TCP. We're going to point that at 4444. All right. Hang on, let me just maximize that for you. So many shortcuts. So here you can see, look at that. Because we're matching based on the URL, it thinks that we've got two transports active right now. So I don't like that. It really should be whatever the first one is you're giving me, that is the current transport. Which I may just change in our source space. Yeah, they're both current. How useful, exactly. Okay, so yeah, I've added, you know, the same endpoint a couple of times, but you can see it's generated a different URI, which makes it technically a different transport. So let's have a look at when we go transport remove. If we give it 1, check that out. Error running transport, no method identifying key has key for array. So it returns 2 because they have the same transport. Isn't that interesting? We've busted something. And by we, I mean you. Okay, so what did we actually do? Transport index has key. Hello, multi. Okay, so it is a map. Right, okay, so what did we do? Right, okay. Okay. Let's leave it as it was. And we're not going to sort them. We are just going to go... Sorry, this is my bad. Let's do that instead. Because then it's still going to be a map behind the scenes, yeah? Okay. BG, exit-y. Spin it back up again. Let's see how it goes. Keep those questions coming if you have them. Even if it's not related to what we're doing, but it's like Terp or MSF related, I'm more than happy to talk about that. Oops. Transport list, what do we got? Oh, look at that. It's actually using the index now. Which makes sense. Oh no, it isn't because it's HTTP. So if we go transport prev, transport list, what do we got? Okay. So if we go transport remove, and let's specify 5. Oh, we need to go I, don't we? Dash I, 5. And here we are. What do we get this time? We have a URL. Let's see what the URL contains. This is supposed to be a list, right? TLV type dot trans URL. That's right. Okay, so the URL that we're given is this. So if the URLs match, we have a problem. So the point of the removal facility is to remove transports that don't match the current, right? So we can add 2 of the same, but we can't remove a transport that matches the same as the current one, even if it's duplicated. It's a bit crap, isn't it? So yeah, I personally don't like the way this is currently implemented. I don't want the URL passed behind the scenes. I want the index. Simple as that. But that doesn't really help us, does it? So we do know that here we basically want to read out a TLV. Now, what is the standard approach that we've been using to read TLVs? Here we go. Let's just steal this piece of code. Yep, edit. So URL equals request.tlvs.trans URL 0.value as string. So the first thing we need to do is to make sure that the transport that we have is currently not active. Now we can actually put some code in here to support what we're effectively trying to avoid by removing any transports that match the current one, sorry, the URL, except for the current one. Yeah. Hey Eric, thanks for coming in, buddy. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to loop through our transports, okay? And we're going to skip over the current one. So we'll go for int I equals 0. I is less than this dot transport dot, is it count? Yep. We'll go to the next one. Now this is interesting, right? Because we need to actually modify the collection as we're mucking with it. So I'm going to reverse this. We're going to start at this.transports.count -1. And we're going to keep going while we're greater than or equal to 0. I'll explain the method to my madness in just a second. So instead of starting at the front and working backwards, bring back the same problem out of multiple. Yes, it does, but I'll show you how we're going to avoid it in our current implementation, given that we know we're going to end up with a URL that matches potentially multiple transports, including the one that we've currently got. So instead of starting at the beginning of the list and working our way to the end of the list, what we're going to do, because if we get to an element we want to remove, I'm going to pull it out and then continue. Instead, I'm going to go from the back. And so if we remove one, this side shifts, but we can keep going forward because, you know, lists, they work that way. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we are just going to do a straight string compare including case because that is important. we are going to say if I equals this dot current, sorry, let's go transport index, we are going to continue. We are not going to allow removal of the current transport. Simple as that. Okay, so if we get to the point where we're looking at our current transport, we need to shift. Now this does actually pose a particularly interesting problem, because if we have passed our current transport index, we need to make sure that we shift our current transport index down with it. Hello, QMs. So yeah, this is a quirky problem, right? Because our transport index might be at 3. We might remove element 2, so we have to move we have to move our transport index down as well. I hope that makes sense. Okay. So what we need to do is, if we end up removing something, we also need to check if our current iterator is underneath our transport index, and if so, we need to shift it back by 1 when we delete it, okay? So, if the URL that we've been given equals this dot transports, whatever the index is, dot, there should be just be URL, right? Config, that's right, it's in part of the config URL. So that should be the full URL. So if the URLs match, then we should be able to remove that transport, okay? So we should be able to go this dot transports dot remove at whatever the index is, okay? So here's the thing. If we remove something prior to our current transport, we need to shift the transport index back by 1. Okay, so if, where are we? I is less than this dot transport index. Does this make sense? Do you understand why I'm doing this? This dot transport index minus. Now, as a result of this, I may need to put the remove functionality inline, because we're actually mucking with the transport list. But then again, you know, when we do adding, that's not so much a problem. There's an edge case here where if we do things asynchronously, we could end up in pain. So I think when we remove transports, I'm going to leave that inline, and we're just going to, we're not going to return next transport. We're going to return continue. We are going to default response.result equals packet result dot. We're going to go bad arguments. And only when we delete something are we going to indicate that we have a success. Yeah? How does that? It was highlight my message. Ooh, nice. I didn't know that was a feature. Do you have to spend those bits every time you highlight the message, or do you redeem that on the channel and now you can reuse it? Is that how that works? I don't know. How does software work? Oof. You do have to redeem it for 170 every time. Every time. Rip. Oh. This chatting stuff's expensive, isn't it? Jeez. Well, that aside, I sincerely hope that you feel you're getting value out of your bits. Yeah, you pay for each highlight. You guys are spendthrift with your bittedness. Okay. Righto, so we have a session. Let's add a couple more transports. HTTP. I'm going to add all the ones we did before. I've lost them. Transport add 192.168.146.140. Port 4448. Type reverse HTTP. HTTPS. And I'm going to do TCP again to prove that things are working. Okay. Still going to show the dual thing. Now, if I hit transport prev, we should come back in on the same transport, but a different instance of the same transport, right? Everyone loves highlighter, and you can't see the highlight on the stream chat. Oh, really? You can't see highlights on the stream chat? It's a good... Hang on a sec. Let me see. Oh, yeah, there's no highlight on that. Oh, there's a little box, I think, next to it. Is there? Hang on. No, you can't. Yeah, that's really rubbish. I don't know why that's the case. Maybe it's something as part of the stream chat thing that's recorded that doesn't fully support that, which is a little bit pants. Sorry about that. Okay, so our current transport is 1, right? So let's go transport remove index of 4. Now we'll make sure that we've got our breakpoint set. Here we go. And boom. Righto. So our URL is the 4th one, as we would expect, and we're starting at the back. Is that the same as 0? No, it's not. Okay. Ooh, we did actually delete the very last one. So now our transports only have 3, and we should get a success result. Okay, that's interesting. So if we transport list now, we should see 3. I should actually leave that full screen and go like that for now. So there you go. We can see that I did actually remove the last one. Now I'm going to re-add that. Transport add reverse TCP. Now I'm going to go transport prev. Okay. Sessions -1. And we will transport list again. Now, see, this is the first one that we added. Sorry, this is the first one we added. And this is the one that we're currently on, which to me makes a heck of a lot more sense. Okay, so that was the first one that we came in on. They were the ones we added in order. This is the one that we're currently on. So yeah, that's kind of how I see it. I actually do legitimately think it would make a lot more sense for the transport functionality to release, return a list of transports, also with a flag that says whether or not this is a current one. Where's the interaction feature? Something that types random garbage in the current window like the mixer. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to go transport remove. I'm going to choose 1. But that's only because that's going to easily select this URL. -I1 for index. Alright, so here's where it's going to get fun, right? Because we've got 4 transports again. The current transport index is 3, so we're going to skip it. And then here we should see the URL is not the same as HTTPS. So I'm going to hit this. Okay, so now we're at the point where the URL is TCP. So this is the first one that we came in on, right? So we should be able to go here. Now, see how I is 0 and the transport index was further up? So now we need to move it back. Because if we don't make sure that, because we've removed the first one, we've got to make sure that our transport index stays in sync with our current transport reference. Otherwise, bad things happen. Okay, so now we should be in a situation where we're back to that. So now if I hit transport next, we should roll over to HTTP, right? And there it is. Transport list. There we go, we roll over to HTTP. Now remember, TCP is still the last one in the list. So this is actually the list in its full state. So that's number 0, that's number 1, and that's number 2. Right? So if I go next, we should jump to this one. If I go prev, we should jump to this one. So it looks like the functionality is working as intended, right? Let's just get rid of that breakpoint. And if we go transport next, transport list. Now, if I want to remove HTTP, transport remove -I3. What happened there? Why didn't that work? Is that because the URLs didn't match? Let's have a look. I'm guessing that something to do with the URIs isn't working. I'll betcha. Betcha. Huh, didn't even come out. Yeah, this music's a bit off, isn't it? Okay, so this is pretty interesting. What do we got here? Thank you, Eric, for the sub again, my friend. Why on earth are we not seeing this packet come in, huh? This is a really awful tune. I might skip it. Skip. That's better. Do a list again. So it definitely did work. There we go. I wonder what happened there. There's definitely a quirk in there, isn't there? So, the URL is definitely that. Let her rip, and what does it say? Operation failed. Is that because we've moved it to an inline thing? I wonder why that is the case. Let's do some debuggering. Yeah, it failed in the front end. It thinks it failed in the front end, but it didn't. Dev is hard, isn't it, hey? It is hard. Debuggering is terrible. I know. Sorry. Alright, let's go again. Does everyone know that how the sessions -1 means go to the last session? Yeah, you can do that. Transport add 192.168.146.1.0 port 4448 type reverse HTTP. Okay, so let's go transport next. Transport list, and then I'm going to try and get rid of the TCP one. Transport remove -I3. Okay, so that's going as expected. Transport doesn't match. Transport index is 2, transports do match, remove at 2, move the transport index back down by 1, so we should now be at 0. That is the best I've ever seen a modify emote work. Oh, that's really cool. I didn't even know you could modify emotes, although I think someone did one with bunny ears last time. Was that you, Barney? I'm thinking it might have been you. Okay, so look at that. Oh, it says that it's timed out, but that's because I was debugging. Let's list the transports again. Okay, so now let's go transport add. Actually, let's go here. I'll add TCP back in at the end on 4444. Transport list. Transport remove -I2. Okay, so yep, that's expected because it's not the last one. Second last one is accurate. Removing. Is the transport index 0? Nope, it's not. So transport index stays the same, and then we set that to success. And then we should continue, and then we're done. And that'll have another timeout. We'll list the transports, and yeah, we're back to how we were. Okay, so now if I go -I1, let's just get rid of the breakpoints. Operation failed 160. Yeah, so that's what I would expect because bad arguments is 160. So what we actually need is something at the UI level to say, hey, you know, we're not removing a transport that's currently active, which I actually think has been removed. So anyway, that seems to be doing what I want it to do. So if we go transport remove 2. So it's not the inline thing, clearly. Clearly it's not. Alright, so we'll put this back as true. But we do need to get to the bottom of this. So why? Why does it think that it's wrong? Let's go and have a look at our plugin manager where it invokes the function. So, and when we invoke a handler, we end up with a result packet, right? A request and response packet. So, see, we specify the response result here. The reason why this wouldn't appear is if we don't match the URL. And that result should be set to success, which is 0. So what this is saying is, when we throw this on a thread, we invoke the handler, and we pass in the packet. Ah, that's right. So there's a packet dispatcher. And the packet dispatcher is an action. And that action, that's right, that goes back up to the server because when we create an instance of the plugin manager, we give it the dispatch packet function, which basically says, go and create the raw packet, which does all the encryption and all the other wonderful Mungie stuff. Okay, so that all makes sense to me. The problem that we've got though is that when we remove a transport, we end up not setting. Yeah, this is a good song. I want to know why we don't hit this. So let's just fire this off again, and we'll do the same things that we did last time. Okay, let's go with transport add, TCP, yes. Oops. I did that wrong because that's not a valid transport. So we need to go transport remove 3 with an I in it. Gets me every time. And we'll just assume that's going to be legit. Ah, so here we go. This is interesting. All right, I'm going to just put the packet dispatcher back up on screen. And then when we go to, where is it? It's down here, isn't it? Dispatch packet. Dispatch packet. Okay, we're going to have a look at the contents of this packet at the point that it's dispatched. In fact, we can do that by looking at the body of this function here. So when we get to this point, I want to see what the result is. Ah! I know exactly what's wrong. Okay, let's go to the body of this. See this? You can set multiple result types. That's what's wrong there. Fail. Okay, so when we set the result, we don't want to allow multiple results. Okay? So this dot remove, can we remove? No, we can't. This dot TLVs. Yeah. So if this dot try get TLV will return a TLV of a certain type. And it'll actually return a reference to it. So what we should probably do is go try get TLV equals try get TLV, and we're going to go TLV type dot what is it? Result. Okay, so if existing isn't null, so if it exists, existing dot what do I need to do? Value. That's how we return. We can't actually set it. That's right. Okay. So that's all coming back to me now. So we need to somehow remove it. So we need to go this dot TLVs dot remove TLV type dot result. I wonder what happens if you try and remove something that doesn't exist. What does it do? Because this is a map, right? A generic dictionary. .NET collections dictionary. Hang on. I can't type tonight. Dictionary remove. So this is what I want to see. We want to look at the documentation. Removes the value with a specified key. True if the element was successfully found and removed, otherwise false. This returns false if key is not found. Okay, cool. So it doesn't throw an exception. So in other words, we don't even need to do that. We can just do this. So we can only allow for one result at a time, which answers the question. And from here, we should be laughing. Let's get rid of our breakpoints. Finally added a feature. Hour and a half in, we've got a feature. Apparently. Sessions -1. Back to the last session. Let's add a reverse HTTPS. And the reverse HTTP. Transport list. Transport remove -I2. There we go. Hooray. That seems to be sane. Would you agree? Hey, look, I talk to myself. It's the only way of guaranteeing an intelligent conversation. Who can tell me where that quote's from? Some of the English people in the room should know the answer to that. Is this going to need you to change the core and a bunch of other meterps? No, I don't think so at this point. So I think for our current implementation, I'm going to leave it as is. When it comes to merging into master, we're probably going to have to normalize it. Am I English or British? Well, British counts. Let's go with British. You don't have to be English. The Brits in the room should, if they have any culture, pick the reference that I have just shared. All right, we have a feature. We've got half an hour to go, and we've got a feature. And we've kind of revisited the list functionality, which really was quite strange to me. But it is what it is. Okay, let's go back to where... what else did we say we were going to do? Address the listing functionality so that we know what's going on. We'll cover that next stream, and we'll add support for removing transport. So we've done that. Yeah, Blackadder. Who picked it? Man. Binchuk. Binchuk picked it, and I don't believe he has a British heritage. Am I incorrect, Binchuk? Accordingly, there are a limited number of transport mechanisms. Can we customize that as well? Right now, the transport mechanisms that you can choose consist of the ones that are supported directly in the payload. So reverse TCP, reverse HTTP, reverse HTTPS, and blind TCP. Over time, more transports may be added, such as reverse SMB. But it's not an easy thing to wire in, hey, with the current architecture. There you go. Okay, so you have a heritage, but I assume you weren't like born over there or anything like that. Yeah, so one of the things we're sort of hoping to work towards is the idea of more pluggable transports and having the interface be able to sort of keep up with those. So like if you build, I don't know, your own ICMP transport, you want to be able to say, add my custom ICMP transport to this thing. But it does come with a bunch of nuances because the custom transports are Meterpreter specific. And so that becomes session specific to be able to wire that in. You might build an ICMP transport for Java Meterpreter, but it doesn't exist for Windows. So when you get a Windows session come in, should you allow them to try and add ICMP transports? Well, no. Absolutely not, because that literally doesn't support that. So the idea of being able to say, you know, add a transport is so tied to the implementation of Meterpreter that it's really hard to add it as a fully featured transport unless all of the existing Meterpreters support that transport, which I know is slightly ironic because you can add reverse HTTPS, and right now PHP doesn't support HTTP or HTTPS transports. It's just TCP only. Had no idea Blackadder wasn't a thing when I first moved over here. Hello, darling. To someone who had the surname Darling, it was lost on them. Captain Darling. So good. I haven't watched Blackadder for ages, but I can still pretty much regurgitate entire episodes off the top of my head. Alrighty then. Okay, so with that done, what can we do next? We should probably have a quick squiz and see if there's something in here that we haven't supported yet. I'm pretty sure we've done PS, which isn't exactly quick. Yep, PS works. So which means the PS-S, for example, should work out of the box. But given that we're not elevated, it's not going to come back with anything. But I assume, given that this stuff is client-side... Yeah, there you go. It's interesting that it doesn't say command.exe, hey? Should it? I'm pretty sure it should. I don't think it really matters that much. A lot of people who legit hated it, no idea why, because they're awful. Okay, so what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Let's see if we can find something very quickly to implement. Oh, our if config stuff we haven't done fully yet, have we? Because do we have IPv6 issues? Yeah, we do. Remember that there's a to-do to fix the net mask on IPv4. I can't remember why that's the case. Just goes to show how hard it is to get this stuff going consistently across different platforms. We've got local time working, I'm pretty sure. Yep. pgrep. What is pgrep? I didn't even know that was a command. Pgrep x64, does that work? I'm sure it would just use the process list behind the scenes, right? Yeah, there you go. Gross. That's a really horrible command, isn't it? Filter processes by name. Ew. IPv5 net masks. Yeah, no, exactly. Okay, so we've got... Pretty sure we haven't done anything with audio. Have we done show mount? I guess we have. File checksums, I know we've done dir, ls, make directory, pwd, rm, mrm, dir, search, upload. Upload is something we haven't done. Upload. Let's go. Cat into temp foo. Hi. Okay, so if we upload temp foo. Yeah, channel open. We don't have channel support. So that is legit something that I really want to start working on because it's a fairly complex beast. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Use pgrep in an Alfred workflow. Well, you should be incredibly embarrassed about that. I'm kidding. Yeah, me too. So channels is going to be, it's probably going to be multi-stream because there's a number of abstractions that we really need to shove into channels. Does anyone have a question around channels? What they are, how they work, like why they are a thing, what abstraction they actually provide? Because when we do channels, we're going to need to provide an abstraction over a number of sort of serialized rewrite mechanisms to files for read writes, downloads. We need to have TCP client channels, so TCP server channels. So we want to be able to say, hey, Meterp, I want you to connect to a socket through you to a remote machine. And so in order to do that, you need to say, I need a facility to be able to shuffle information back and forth across the Meterpreter session. And that's effectively what a channel is. A channel is a way of taking a connection to a remote thing, and that could be a process, a file, a socket, anything that information is going to shuffle between. And when information is written to the receiving end of the channel, so when a file is written, when standard out spits something out of a process, that is captured and is sent back down to Metasploit in a channel packet. And that channel packet is parsed by Metasploit and goes, oh, that's associated with this TCP socket, so we will pass that packet on to whatever it is that's expecting to receive the packets off the TCP socket. If it's attached to a process like the shell command, which literally just wraps up a process execute, channelizes the process and binds standard out to the channel coming out of Meterp and standard in to the channel going into Meterp, right? So when you type something in the console, it wraps that up in a channel message, associates it with the identity of the shell, sends it down the wire, and Meterp goes, so that is a channel packet associated with the standard input of this process. Let's take the content, fire it in, and then obviously when it spits out the result, it goes back. So you've kind of got this idea of virtualized streams across a single connection, all wrapped up in this concept of channels. But because there are so many different types, it's quite complex to get a decent abstraction over the top of what channels are, knowing full well that they don't all kind of follow the same nuance. Well, yeah, exactly. Nice and simple. So you've got the idea of a file channel, right? Give me a file descriptor. Point at a file on disk. Okay, I want to be able to read to and write from it. So yeah, that kind of makes sense. You can seek on that channel. You can't seek on a TCP channel. So you're sort of in the same realm as file descriptors in Unix, right? Everything's a file descriptor. And some file descriptors you can seek, some you can't. Some you can read from, some you can't. Some you can write to, some you can't. Like you can't write to standard out. You can't read from standard in when you're on the other end of the channel. Whereas if you're the process, you do exactly the opposite. You read from standard in and you write to standard out. So it is kind of confusing. But it's a lot of fun. Like that kind of complexity is really, really fun. But here's where the interesting bit really kicks in. So behind the scenes, when you create a channel, obviously you need some kind of thing going on behind the scenes that is not associated with the current server thread. And that server thread needs to sit there and carry on doing whatever it is that it's doing when we're just doing standard synchronous commands, right? Behind the scenes, there needs to be a thread that manages the channels. And in Meterpreter, it's called a scheduler. And the scheduler basically just takes a bunch of things that can be waited on. They could be channels, they could be other things. But the point is that it has the ability to abstract the means to wait on something, whether that's a read or a write. And then when something happens, it invokes some kind of callback that will allow that action to happen so that the packets can shuffle back and forth before returning to the wait state, where it's waiting for one thing to happen on that particular channel. It's pretty interesting. There's a fair bit to do, fair bit to grok. We will mess it up. I will mess it up. It will take a couple of iterations, I think, to get right. So, but that's good, right? That's good. That's exactly what we want to see. That's the kind of fun that we want to have. And I think we'll all learn something from that. If we have additional thoughts or features regarding this topic, should we shoot it in Discord? Mate, you can definitely do that. You can quiz me on stream. You can send me a Twitter DM. Discord's a really good place to talk about it, either in stream chat or in the C# Noobs channel, for example, because lots of people like to discuss these points, and there's other .NET people out there that would have opinions on it as well. So yeah, look, I'd say put it in a public place. Probably stream chat would be the most appropriate. But when it comes to features regarding the topic, what we got to remember at the moment is that we're striving for an MVP of the .NET Meterpreter. And by that, what I mean is we're still striving for feature parity with the existing Meterpreters. And if we don't get to that point soon, we don't really have the means to be able to land this in master. So my goal is to really push this hard now to get to a point where we can say, this is a legit function that we want to use in production instances of Metasploit. So I want people to be able to pull this down now, and I want people to be able to play with it and use it on a gig. So that's what we're striving for. Channels will unlock a number of features for us. And then on top of that, I want to start adding some of the other functionality that comes with things like the extended API, the PowerShell extension, all of those sorts of things. There's so much stuff to build. But right now, the primary goal is get all the core functionality in there, including the channels, bulk out most of the standard API functionality too, implement subset of priv, because I clearly need to implement some form of get system on stream before we PR this, or I'm never going to live it down. In fact, I'm never going to live it down anyway. But yeah, we do absolutely need to do that. Anyway, so it is 9:45. We've done an hour and 45 minutes. Yep, there you go. Get system. We've done an hour and 45 minutes. I don't think it makes sense to chime into a new feature now. So I'm happy to take questions. But if you don't have any more questions, then we'll wrap it up. I'll get the files uploaded, the source uploaded, the videos uploaded, etc. And we will aim to kick off a stream to do some other bits and pieces, hopefully early next week, if you guys are keen. Any questions? Any comments? Here's an interesting statistic while I wait for you all to type in the plethora of questions that you're really itching to ask me. I keep, on my stream deck, one of the buttons on here tells me how many people are watching. And it's an interesting thing to look at as the stream goes on. And for me, particularly with regards to the topic, right? So dev streams, like Meterpreter development streams, tend to have around half the people watching. Interesting, huh? So on average, when we're doing CTF related stuff, particularly binary exploitation, like there can be 40 people, 50 people ish. On average, 35 tends to hang out on streams with the CTF. You get into development stuff and it drops. And I find that particularly interesting because you would think that particularly hackers, long-term hackers, people who have spent a lot of time working in the security space would find the CTF stuff, like not necessarily boring, but well in their wheelhouse. And you would think that, okay, here's a chance to learn something not only from a development point of view, but a mixture of languages, mixture of technologies, and learning the guts of something that I may actually use, and they don't show up. So that's interesting to me. Now, obviously, I'm generalizing a bit because I might have this picture of the person who's coming in to watch, and they work in security and they're interested in development and blah blah blah. But that's probably more of a projection of what maybe my misgivings, my lack of understanding of what the demographic actually is. And at the end of the day, if one person's watching and getting value out of it, then that's enough. It's nice that there's still 20 of you hanging out and chatting and asking questions. So it's all good. It's all good. So should we leave it at that then? We implemented one feature, but I hope that it was a bit of a refresher and we got ourselves back up to speed, and you guys got some value out of it. So as always, hit me up in Discord if you have any questions. Commentary is always very much appreciated. And in the meantime, what do you got there? I'm almost 1,000 points. Sunglide, just hang on. So you've got to spend money to put things on emotes. Man, I tell you what, Twitch has come up with very new and interesting ways to get money off you people. That's pretty crazy. Do you like my my little funky tunnel background? Well, it's not really mine. I just poached it off the internet, but I liked it. I thought it was cool. Points for watching. You get them just watching the stream. I do? Oh, you do. You guys do. Yeah, okay. No need for money. It's channel point. I don't even know what channel points are. You kids and your channel points. 3.1k channel points. That's epic. Okay. Well, it must be some other virtual currency that's Twitch specific, hey? All right. Sweet. Thank you very much. Much love to all of you, as always. Apologies that I didn't get anything out last week, but I was building a climbing wall. And we're pretty much at the end of that project now, and that's all very exciting. Don't lie, you love yourself and have thousands of points. All right, cheers all. I will stop it there. Thank you very much for your support. Thanks for the follows. Thanks for the subs. Thanks for being here and chatting and making things awesome, and for your great questions. And in the meantime, as always, be good to each other.
And now my tries deja vu round, spinning me into another lost time. Tell me where this road will end before I drive over the edge. Give me one break to recover myself, because I can't bear. Now I'm in two minds thinking about